Welcome back to the Gamekeeper's Cottage Diaries. Welcome back to Gamekeeper's Cottage. It's the middle of June and we're going to do a mini, somewhat colourful and rather overgrown plot tour this week. So I'm starting off here down by the stables, as you can see, and we'll have a little wander around and look at the plants. Before we start the plot tour, I'll show you a bit of organisation that we've done. I found these little, they're called broom clips, and they're meant to hold brooms in utility rooms, but I've just put a couple of those on the wall of the stables, and it's just keeping the wheelbarrow up and out of the rain. Anyway, let's get on with the plot tour. So, as we wander over to the gate hedge, you can see it's very overgrown, but if we look at this field maple, for example, you can see that this is now up to about 6 foot tall. So it's just getting up there, it's reaching up. And many of the other plants that are hidden in there, you can see some of them, are the same. I mean, the main thing is that it's achieving what we wanted. It is providing us with a hedge that is screening this area off from the neighbouring fields. We will at some stage try and tidy up some of the nettles to at least keep them back off the stable yard, but it is giving us a natural hedge and providing a little bit of area for some of the insects. As we wander down the side of the stables, you can see the old mature hedge here. It's very well grown. The blossom on the hawthorns in this area has now gone, but you can see we have got the haws starting to show up here. This part of the hedge does need some cutting back because it is getting rather overgrown, but at the moment it is alive with birds, and we think there are some birds' nests in there, so legally we can't actually cut it at the moment. So we're just going to leave it until the autumn, and then once all the birds have flown the nests, so to speak, we will then cut it back. And while we're down at this area, we do still have some blossoms over here. You can see we've got a plethora of white blossoms on this side of the hedge. But now let's wander around the rest of the property and have a look. So as we wander over here, the little stable area is very overgrown. I want to try and cut some of that back over the next few days. The weather here has been very bad, and as I will actually update you on in a future video, I am currently working away from home, so I'm not getting much time at the moment to actually do even the most basic of tasks. But we do have a rather nice little growth of flowers here in the old stone trough here. But let's carry on round and look at the front of the house now. So around here in front of the house, the main things to look at is, yet again, the old mature rose bushes are starting to show their beautiful red blooms on this one. And then we do have another container of the flowers that have grown back from last year. But as we wander across the front of the house, you can see the other rose bush with its pinky white roses is also starting to show a few blooms, and plenty of buds growing as well, you can see in there. But now let's wander around and have a look at the back of the house. As we're wandering round to the back garden, we will just quickly have a little stop here, and once again you can see that we have another container of these beautiful pink, red, white flowers. I can't actually remember what they are. If I can work it out, I will add a note onto the screen in editing. But these were planted by my wife in various places last year, and they have come up again this year. We'll carry on. We'll take a little cut through the edge of the orchard here, under the trees. So as you can see, as we look around the trees, so here we've got a mixture of tree limbs here all merging together, but we have some apples here, if it'll focus. There we go. So we've got some apples here starting to grow, and then as we spin round, we've got some cherries here also starting to grow. We've never had much luck here with the cherries. I think I've mentioned it in the past. The birds tend to get at them before we do, but they do at least grow. Turning around again, as you can see, very overgrown in this area. We've pretty much left this as it is, just to grow as a little bit of nature area. Now this is interesting here. This tree is actually a lemon tree that my wife grew from a lemon pip seed that she took out of a lemon. So it was originally in a container. We planted it out back in around about Easter time into the ground here, and it has grown quite well. We're probably again going to have to do a bit of work on the apple tree to cut it back because it is rather overgrown. Moving round over into the grass, and you can see on the little pear tree we also have some pears starting to form. So we do usually get a very nice crop of pears, and they're very nice tasting. So we'll be looking forward to those in a few months' time when we can start harvesting them. As you can hear in the background, the bird life is well and truly all around us now. You can hear birds everywhere in all the trees. We have got a mixture of tits that we've seen, a number of robins and blackbirds, together with a few others that actually visit occasionally. Anyway, as we wander over to the what will become the vegetable area eventually. So this is the raspberry bush that we planted again back around Easter time. So this is an autumn fruiting raspberry. Now I'm not sure whether it's actually going to give any fruits this year in its first year. Perhaps if you know, you can let us know in the comments. I'm also not entirely sure what is going on here. I think these are new growths, but some of the leaves don't actually match the leaves on the plant as it was. It's not grown much, but it is developing. So we'll leave it, see what happens this year, and then hopefully if it doesn't give us any fruit this year, we'll get a crop off of it next year when we have more time to actually look after it and prune it down and keep the area around it clean. Moving across now to the one real crop that we planted. It is very weedy, but as you can see, if we look in here, we do have a nice little crop of onions. Now I've not counted them, but I think very nearly all of the 50 onions that we planted have grown. So that's a pretty good crop. So they're not ready for picking yet, or for pulling up, but in a couple of months' time, hopefully, we will have a nice supply of fresh onions. wandering across. These 2 buckets from Tesco's were an abject failure. Neither of them have really grown anything, but we will keep the buckets as they are. And what I'll probably do is, as they're fairly nice buckets, we'll empty them out and just plant some plants in them next year. Have them for some flowers. In this little bed, we planted a number of herbs, and I can't actually remember off the top of my head what we planted. We do have, it was old seed, and we do have a fair amount of stuff grown. I'll have to look back on one of the old videos and actually see what it was we planted in there. And then, once again, we've got another one of our mature apple trees. Again, with some apples starting to develop up in there, if we can get in to see. These trees just keep on producing fruit year after year with no maintenance, although, as I say, at some stage we probably do need to start looking at cutting some of them back and just trying to manage them. Anyway, let's move on into the main back garden now. So over here in what I'm calling the lounge bed, as you can see, it is very overgrown. We've got a few nettles and grasses and things, but you can also see over in this area we have the salvia hot lips that was planted last year that is growing very well. We also have this other salvia, and I can't remember what the name of that one was, but that is also flowering once again. And as we pan around and look in, you can see that in amongst the weeds we do also have some nice growth from the lavender bushes that we planted last year. And then as we come out, again we've got more of the same pink flowers here on the edge of the border. So these have grown very nicely. We will possibly need to look at, unfortunately, having to move them because they will be pretty much in the way of where we're planning on having a path, but at the moment we will just enjoy them. And then as we move around and into the actual hedge that we planted last year, so in amongst the weeds you can see that these were the bare root plants. Sorry, we planted this at the start of the year. So these were the bare root plants that I planted back in January, and the good news is the dog rose that I thought was looking pretty dead is growing, and we're showing some new growth there. We won't go into this side area because it is very overgrown. We've done nothing with it, but we'll carry on around the hedge, and you can see we are starting to get plants growing. They're up at about, in most cases, 4 or 5 foot now, and showing a nice lot of foliage for their first year. The hawthorns in particular are really growing out well. We will shortly be filling out the little paving area. We have a seat on order. We are waiting for that to be delivered, and once it's delivered I'll tidy this area up and build it in there. Again, as we carry on looking at the hedge, you can see particularly in this area we do have again a lot of nice growth. And as we carry on round the old bush and look at this last bit of the hedge, Now obviously this bit is a lot more shady because we've got the tree over the top of it, and it is shaded by the fence as well. But even in here we are starting to get some nice growth amongst the plants. And all in all, while the garden may be a bit of a mess still, we are starting to see things take shape. So that's the end of the plot tour, and I'll see you in the next video. All that remains is for me to thank you for watching, and to ask that if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and join us in the comments below to help the channel grow. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.